Sometimes we think certain physical activities or sports can only be done well by people with a specific or stereotypical body type for those sort of things that's best suited for it. So we might see someone tall and say, oh, they should be a basketball player. You know, someone that's big and strong, oh, they should be a football player. If someone's, you know, short and muscular and strong, you'll say, oh, they'd be a great gymnast. Someone who really has a thin, small frame, lightweight, horse jockey, that sort of thing. But that's not always the case. This concept reminds me of these toys you play with when you're a little kid, putting the shapes in there, because it's easy in real life to label people and make assumptions about them according to their looks, what you think they'll be good at. In this video, I'd like to feature and give attention to some of the people who broke those stereotypical molds. Okay, let's start with CrossFit. First of all, your average elite male CrossFitters are going to be probably 5'8", maybe 190, 195 pounds, somewhere in that range. It's kind of rare to see people much taller than that in the elite level. So that's why I'm always happy when I see people like Spencer Handel, who's an 8 times games vet at 6'2", competing with the other guys. And a more extreme example of that was, I think, 2013, age of Barto, 6'5", just so tall compared to some of the other competitors. So it's always cool to see that people can break that mold. Moving on to martial arts. If you look at the UFC in their beginning years, they had some scary, intimidating specimens that were fighting, just some monsters in the octagon. And so it was kind of strange to see this guy named Royce Gracie, just an average looking guy wearing a gi, who was defeating these monsters like Kimo Leopoldo, Ken Shamrock, and Dan Severn. He showed with his skill in jiu-jitsu and submissions that he could defeat stronger and bigger opponents. In arm wrestling, I've done a video about Schoolboy. He's a guy that doesn't look very intimidating, especially compared to some of the huge and muscular arm wrestlers there are out there. But his strength is off the charts, and he surprises a lot of people bigger than him and defeats him. So it's kind of cool to see you don't have to be the biggest, strongest guy to be successful at that. Moving on to my favorite sport, basketball. In the NBA, back in 1979, when Magic Johnson came into the league, he was a 6'9" point guard, which was unheard of. Usually you'd have 6, maybe 6'2", maybe a big 6'4" point guard. But to have someone that's so big with such court vision and ball control, passing out and assists left and right, I mean, it was just amazing to see what he was able to do. And he's kind of changed the game in that regard. The average height of the NBA player is 6'6", and then you've got in the opposite direction people who are very small. So 5'7" Spud Webb, 5'3" Muggsy Bogues. Both of these guys had long, successful careers in the NBA, despite being short compared to their opposition. And I like this because it gives a lot of hope to some of the vertically challenged ball players out there that would love to play basketball, but assume that you have to be tall to be successful at that. And then also in the NBA, you've got some body types that don't seem to fit the mold. Guys like Charles Barkley and Zion Williamson, when they enter the league, they look more like football players. They're packing a lot more beef on their frame than some of the thinner, tall players.
It looked like me and Shaq had a baby. What did it look like, Shaq? Me and you had a baby.
It reminds me of how scientists say, if you look at physics, it's impossible for a bumblebee to fly. I look at them and wonder how they get up the way they do with so much weight, but they are very successful at what they do. When I was in high school, I was 6'2" and I played forward, sometimes center. We were obviously not a tall team, but my senior year I took 0 3-point shots. And if I probably would have taken one, I would have been benched. It's just something you didn't do unless you were like the point guard or the premier shooter of the team from outside. And today, everyone shoots threes. If you look in the NBA, there's so many big men that are good shooters. Like people started like Mehmet Okur, Dirk Nowitzki, and then this last year, Karl-Anthony Towns won the 3-point contest as a center. So that's something that's really changed, that you don't have to be a small guard again to shoot threes and be successful at that. Now I know I'm talking about professional athletes, and you might say, well, what does this have to do with me? Those guys are elite. My point is, if you have a particular exercise or activity or sport you really enjoy, you love being active doing it, then do it. Don't let other people tell you what you can and can't do.
Yo, you can do anything. Anything's possible. The world is yours.
I love seeing people break the mold and surprise their peers and critics, accomplishing things that people didn't think they'd be able to do.
Do you see a slot that would fit
the semicircle?
Semicircle?
The semicircle.
That's right. It's the square hole. Okay. Up next, the triangle. We know what hole that goes into,
triangle.
right?
Triangle.
That's right. The square hole.
I'd love to hear from you in the comments. If you can think of any other athletes or people that broke the stereotypical mold of what you're supposed to look like to be good in a particular sport or event. Also, feel free to check out my other videos. They're way better than this one.